Large catfish, bigger than a grown man, have never been observed hunting in Albi, and it is assumed that they feed on large prey at night. Surprisingly, catfish sometimes feed on animals that are completely out of proportion to their great size, including these tiny shellfish called corbicula. When the summer heat reduces the oxygen content in the water, these freshwater clams die. Their flesh ferments and floats to the surface. Where catfish locate them and gulp them down. But the corbicula season is very short, only a few days each year. They cannot sustain the growth of such a large animal. And yet, fishermen tell tales of gigantic fish throughout Europe.
The biggest one that I've ever caught was 5'9".
They haven't reached their full size, which is just over 8 feet.
These are not just stories. A few years ago, in the Danube Delta, I saw sport fishermen catch very large catfish, more than 220 pounds.
Even scientists agree that giant catfish are widespread in France's rivers.
In France, we have fish that are bigger than 8 feet.
Persistent rumors claim that colossal catfish live in the large rivers of Eastern Europe.
The largest catfish to be caught in the Danube Delta was 8 feet 10 inches, if I remember rightly, and it weighed more than 650 pounds.
So the largest catfish in the world seem to come from the Danube Delta, Europe's largest, separating Romania from Ukraine. Frédéric Santul tries to understand what environmental factors and eating habits cause this colossal size, and why they vary from one region to another. In order to find out, he needs to take biopsies or skin samples from living catfish during different seasons.
We collaborate with a lot of fishermen, quite often specialized fishermen, who are able to capture up to 10 fish a day.
They have a tried and tested method. Out of a representative selection of catfish, they take small tissue samples, often from the fins. Which they immerse immediately in alcohol. These specimens are sent for so-called isotopic analysis in specialized laboratories in order to learn more about the fish's feeding habits. The studies prove that catfish don't have the large appetites that their bulging bellies suggest. A 5-foot-long catfish only eats a couple of pounds of food per week when the water is at 72 degrees Fahrenheit. During the winter, when the water temperature falls below 60 degrees Fahrenheit, they stop eating completely. Catfish have gained their greedy reputation from their opportunism. They're not fussy about their food. As well as pigeons, they eat roaches, but also amphibians, pike, and even swans. The samples from Romania should also reveal genetic information about the origins of catfish in Western Europe. To reconstruct the catfish migration, the samples will need to be compared with those taken from catfish from various European waterways. These are provided by fishermen where the catfish are hungry, while freedivers are called in for those that refuse to take the bait. This comparative study reveals surprising results. Originating in the Danube, catfish have colonized the whole of Europe in fewer than 40 years. Particularly Italy, Switzerland, France, Great Britain, Spain, and Portugal. They have even conquered other continents like North Africa and South America, where they are found in Brazil. The catfish's burgeoning empire can only be explained by human involvement. Intentional introductions. Introductions that may have come just in time for the catfish. Romanians traditionally eat catfish from the Danube, and here, in their original home, they are in danger from overfishing. Today, only small specimens can be found, but local fishermen like Christian Hasnas remember when French fishermen came here to fish.
I've heard stories of French fishermen who came to fish in the Delta 50 years ago. And I know that at that time, catching a 100-pound fish was no big deal. It was routine. But I don't know if the French took catfish home with them. I have no idea.
Now, Romanian sport fishermen have to leave their own country to catch the big fish.
I've heard of very big catfish in France, in a lake. Today, that's where the Romanians go to catch big fish. It's a lake called Saint-Cassien.
So how did a small lake in the south of France become a haven for Romanian catfish? Hidden in the Provençal backcountry, Saint-Cassien Lake has only existed since 1966. It is entirely man-made, created by diverting several rivers from the Alps to provide fresh water and produce electricity. So the presence of catfish in this reservoir of drinking water can only be the result of artificial fish stocking. Daniel Predatory, the fish warden for the lake, makes no secret that fish were deliberately introduced to indulge sport fishermen.
The catfish arrived officially in 1991 and 1992. There were two introductions of 1,000 little catfish that measured between 7 and 10 inches. At the time, it was me that introduced them. It was me that emptied the little catfish out of the nets, so I know what size they were. After that, over the years, we realized that fishermen were beginning to catch very small catfish, even smaller than the ones we'd introduced. We knew that the lake suited them and that they were reproducing. The fishing has started to get good for sport fishermen, and that was the original goal when we introduced the fish.
Wells catfish are currently invading Europe's major cities, even the heart of Lyon, the third largest city in France. Until the beginning of the 1990s, there were no catfish in Lyon. But today, fishermen come here to take on fish that are even bigger and heavier than themselves. These wrestling matches may continue for several hours, during which the fisherman can drift with the current over several miles. All fishermen are on the hunt for trophies. In the past, big game fishing meant taking to the high seas or heading to the distant tropics. Now, thanks to the catfish, huge fish can be caught in the town center.
7 feet precisely, so it's a fish that is more than 20 years old.
The catfish, originally from the large continental rivers, adapts better than any other species to the growing pollution in our waterways. This frankenfish thrives where others die. It tolerates the raised nitrogen levels caused by fertilizers leaching into the water, as well as industrial heavy metals that are stored in its body, and all sorts of human waste products. Catfish are swimming trash cans. Because we find traces of tar, PCBs, and pesticides in their flesh, they are declared unfit for human consumption. Either to avoid poisoning themselves, or out of respect for the frankenfish, fishermen practice catch and release. Like most catfish fishermen in Western Europe, they measure their trophy, then return the animal back to the water, still alive. Indirectly, catfish survive, thanks to human waste. Able to live for over 50 years, the fish continue to grow throughout their lifespan, reaching huge sizes. Using fish finders, trophy hunters are able to locate catfish even in murky water. These devices revealed an unexplained and paradoxical behavior that takes place every winter in the Rhone River. Just when their activity should be slowing down in the cold water, they form large groups. These congregations can last several days in a row, continuing day and night. The beginning and end of these improvised get-togethers is triggered by chemical communication between the catfish. More than 200 individuals weighing between 110 and 240 pounds each, almost 2 tons of catfish in the space of a few square feet. It's the largest concentration of freshwater biomass in the world. To gauge the state of the catfish population and the size of individual fish, freedivers join the party. These cold water aficionados have noticed that catfish group together in winter in most of Europe's large rivers, particularly in the Po, the longest river in Italy. Here, amateur fisherman Dino Ferrari has been looking for a record-breaking catfish for the last 20 years. In the warm waters of the Po, there is no respite. The catfish feed and grow all year round. Even in the middle of winter, they take the bait and keep the fishermen on their toes. After struggling for more than an hour, Dino hauls his trophy to the shore for the mandatory photo session before recording its all-important vital statistics. Measuring 8 feet 9 inches and weighing 280 pounds, this 30-year-old catfish is officially the largest ever caught with a rod and reel. In keeping with catch and release tradition, Dino frees his monster so it can continue to live and grow in the Po River. Throughout Europe, fishermen are obsessed with catching giant catfish, and yet the holy grail of the catfish fisherman is quite different. The ultimate prize for catfish trophy hunters is the Moby Dick of the rivers, the extremely rare albino catfish.
The dream for a lot of catfish fishermen, if not all, is of course the albino catfish. There is about 1 in 5,000 or 1 in 10,000, since it's quite simply a genetic anomaly. It's something that is very, very rare. So when you catch one, it's really exciting. It might be the fish of a lifetime.
Lionel Luqueta has devoted his entire life to this wild chase.
We go on a lot of fishing trips, and for the last 20 years or so, there hasn't been a single trip where we haven't hoped to see a white catfish. Not a single day. We're always secretly hoping to see a white fish come up to the surface. It's going sideways. I don't know. That's it. It's under the boat. Put down your rod. Put down your rod. Unbelievable! Look at that thing! More than 6 feet. To see that pure white arrive at the surface is incredible. It's so exciting, and it's like it's the first time, no matter what size it is. It's a very visceral feeling.
This albino catfish is one of the largest ever caught. This battle between man and the white fish takes on a symbolism reminiscent of Moby Dick.
That is a beautiful fish. That is a lovely baby. A lovely, lovely baby.
Sport fishing shows the contrast between the fishermen's professed respect for the fish and their secret pride for trophies.
Let's put it back quickly.
It illustrates the dilemma experienced by all those involved. Should the catfish be categorized as a pest, which would ultimately lead to its eradication? Obviously, the catfish fishermen are quick to defend their passion.
There has been no noticeable impact on the whitefish populations like carp, breams or roaches. For the moment, there have been no particular problems.
Even the scientists seem to agree.
In our role, we cannot categorize the catfish as a species that could cause biological disorders. The studies we have done on the eventual impact on freshwater fish do not show any significant impact by catfish.
The catfish has won the ultimate battle, that of public opinion. For the time being, at least, it will not be classified as a pest. The catfish could become the only wild fish in the world to die of old age if the fishermen continue to catch and release. Catfish benefit both from human indulgence and incredible luck. Though it is already well equipped to survive in our midst, nature sometimes makes its life even easier. While most of the attacks on pigeons in Albi were unsuccessful, an unexpected event would soon give the catfish a helping hand. In autumn 2014, a huge storm flooded the hills near Albi. Floodwater swept away everything in its path. The Tarn River rapidly rose to 12 feet above its normal level. Sheltering out of the current, the catfish continued their opportunistic lifestyle. But when the floodwater reached Albi, it had a major effect on the landscape. The pigeons' island became unrecognizable. All the trees were uprooted or stripped bare. By spring 2015, the local council decided to remove the last of the dead trees. In the course of a few months, the island had changed drastically. The shores of the island were much steeper. The catfish were unharmed by these raging waters. Quite the opposite. The stony slope allows them to get much closer to the pigeons. Now they can hide out much nearer to the beaches. And as soon as the birds step into the water, they appear from nowhere. Their constant presence seems to have made the pigeons less cautious. Under the surface, they have turned into ghostly killers. These massacres have little impact on the pigeon population. There are plenty left, drinking in the town's fountains. They're ready to take up the ecological niche left vacant by those that have been taken prey. As for the catfish, natural selection is at work all over Europe. This cannibal fish regulates its own population. Only the largest and most voracious survive. Over time, these intruders are sure to become even more resourceful, stubborn, and persistent.